Searchers, 1956, may be one of the greatest westerns ever made. But behind John Ford's masterpiece were secrets, conflicts, and strange moments Hollywood never wanted to talk about. What happened off camera was just as dramatic and far weirder than what ended up on screen. Fact 1.
Lucy, you ain't much bigger than when I last saw you.
John Ford and John Wayne had worked together for years, but on The Searchers,
Good morning, Sister Edwards. Good morning.
Ford pushed him harder than ever before. He believed Wayne needed discomfort, irritation, and emotional pressure to portray Ethan Edwards' darkness correctly.
Well, Reverend, that tears it.
Ford insulted Wayne between takes, questioning his acting ability and even his masculinity. Wayne stayed quiet, but the tension built inside him like a coiled spring. Crew members heard Ford mock Wayne's delivery, calling it too soft for a killer. Wayne later said he felt humiliated but didn't fight back. Ford wanted Ethan to feel unpredictable, angry, and broken, and he believed the best way to achieve that was to provoke Wayne personally. During emotional scenes, Ford deliberately refused to give direction, letting Wayne sit in silence until the frustration boiled over. When Ford finally called action, Wayne's eyes carried real anger. That raw intensity became one of the defining elements of Ethan Edwards. The darker the performance became, the more Ford leaned into his harsh methods. Everyone on set said the role shaped Wayne and the film forever. Fact 2.
Comanche comes along, gets that horse up, rides him 20 more miles.
Ford insisted on filming in Monument Valley, his favorite cinematic landscape, even though temperatures regularly soared above 40 degrees Celsius. Cast and crew struggled daily with dehydration, dizziness, and blinding sunlight. Horses collapsed under the heat, forcing breaks Ford didn't want to take. Wayne sweated so heavily between takes that his costume had to be dried constantly. Vera Miles fainted one afternoon while filming a long walking scene across the desert. Ford refused to slow the schedule, claiming the exhaustion would add realism. Technicians wore wet towels around their necks to avoid heat stroke. Camera equipment overheated, shutting down mid-shot. Makeup melted off actors' faces within minutes, requiring endless touch-ups. Even John Ford himself admitted the heat made him irritable and impatient. The harsh environment gave the film its authentic, scorching intensity, but it came at a brutal cost. Every shot you see was earned through real sweat and struggle. Monument Valley didn't just serve as a backdrop. It punished the cast into delivering their best.
You want some water, Ethan?
Fact 3.
2 long years waiting for you. I ain't cut out to be no old maid.
Well, I'm sorry, Laurie, but I just gotta catch up with Ethan.
Jeffrey Hunter, who played Martin Pauly, endured several painful injuries during filming. Early in production, he sprained his ankle while running on uneven canyon terrain. Instead of giving him rest, Ford forced Hunter to limp through scenes, claiming it added authenticity. In another moment, Hunter bruised his ribs when a horse unexpectedly shifted and pinned him against a rock. Ford ignored the injury and continued shooting. Hunter often grimaced on camera, and many of those expressions weren't acting. Crew members thought Ford was too cruel, but Ford believed Hunter needed to look vulnerable next to Wayne's hardened presence. During one take, Hunter's horse bolted unexpectedly, throwing him from the saddle. Ford kept the cameras rolling, capturing the real panic in Hunter's eyes. That footage inspired Ford to incorporate more chaotic moments into the film. Hunter later admitted The Searchers was the most physically demanding experience of his career. The pain shows on screen, and Ford loved every second of it.
David, don't you remember? I'm Martin, your brother.
Fact 4.
I thought we were trying to get them girls out, alive. You jump them Comanche, they'll kill them, you know that.
While filming in Monument Valley, the crew witnessed a real Navajo funeral ceremony. Ford had long-standing ties with the Navajo Nation and was allowed to observe from a respectful distance. The event deeply affected many cast members, especially Wayne, who stood silently throughout the ritual. The production halted entirely so the Navajo community could mourn without interruption. Afterward, Ford asked tribal elders for permission to incorporate certain ceremonial images symbolically into scenes. They agreed, as long as no sacred details were misrepresented. This cultural exchange influenced the tone of several moments, especially scenes involving Ethan's hatred and obsession. Crew members said the experience brought a seriousness to the set that lingered for days. Even the normally loud, joking actors
You got yourself a wife, Sonny.
stayed quiet out of respect. The ceremony reminded everyone that the film depicted real historical trauma. Ford later said witnessing that funeral grounded the film's emotional truth more than any script revision. It became a silent, powerful influence on the entire production. Fact 5.
Here's a letter for you, Charlie, brother. Yes, I figured it.
Natalie Wood played the kidnapped Debbie Edwards, but her role had heavier implications than the studio dared discuss publicly. The script hinted at disturbing realities of captivity and assimilation, themes far more adult than Wood's young age. Ford shielded her from the darkest dialogue by adjusting on-set explanations. Wood admitted years later she was unaware of what certain scenes implied. The crew tiptoed around mature themes to protect her innocence. Wayne often joked with her to keep the mood light, sensing the weight of her character's situation. Wood only saw the full emotional gravity of the story once the film premiered. She was shocked by how intense her character's arc felt on screen. Ford believed her limited understanding created a natural naivety in her performance. But the secrecy also added tension, as older cast members quietly wrestled with the real meaning behind the story. Wood's portrayal remains one of the film's most haunting elements. Her innocence, placed against the film's brutality, made the story hit even harder.
We've seen scalps before.
This before?
Fact 6.
Ethan, I gotta ask you and Martin to take a ride with me down to state capitol.
Is this an invite to a necktie party, Reverend?
John Ford loved creating emotional friction on set to bring scenes to life, and the dynamic between Vera Miles and Ward Bond was one of his favorite targets. He deliberately gave them conflicting direction in private, telling each actor something slightly different about the tone of their scenes. Bond was told to play his character with stern, judgmental authority, while Miles was instructed to subtly undermine him with quiet confidence. The result was accidental electricity between the two performers. During rehearsals, Miles noticed Bond glaring at her more than usual. Bond, unaware Ford had manipulated him, believed Miles wasn't taking the role seriously. Ford watched the tension grow and encouraged it by staying silent. Crew members said Ford enjoyed these small psychological experiments. When cameras rolled, the tension translated into organic, charged performances that elevated otherwise simple scenes. The natural friction made the emotional stakes feel more authentic. Ford rarely apologized for these tactics. He believed the best acting came from real emotions, even if he had to create them through manipulation. Fact 7. One of the most iconic shots in film history, Wayne framed alone in a doorway before walking into the desert, wasn't in the original script. Ford came up with it spontaneously after noticing how Wayne's silhouette looked in the low afternoon light. He halted filming immediately and ordered the crew to reset equipment to capture the image. Wayne stood quietly as Ford walked around him, studying the way the shadow fell across his body. Ford told him, "Just stand there like you can't belong anywhere." Wayne didn't fully understand, but trusted Ford's instincts. When the cameras rolled, Wayne adjusted his posture slightly, adding the subtle slump that made the moment unforgettable. Ford whispered, "Perfect," before the take even ended. Crew members felt goosebumps watching the scene unfold. The shot became the defining image of Ethan Edwards, a man outside the world he tried to save. Ford later admitted it was pure instinct. The moment was born from light, silence, and Wayne's quiet understanding of the character. Fact 8. The studio pressured Ford to hire standard Hollywood Indian performers for consistency, but Ford refused. He insisted on hiring hundreds of Navajo extras from Monument Valley and surrounding communities. The authenticity brought cultural richness to the production. Many Navajo cast members incorporated real traditional gestures and body language into scenes. Ford encouraged this, even when the studio complained the actions didn't look cinematic. During one scene, extras began performing a real social dance during downtime, and Ford filmed it without telling them. The studio tried to remove the footage, but Ford fought to keep it. He believed Hollywood's stereotypes had distorted indigenous representation for decades. Crew members later said Ford was far more respectful of the Navajo than he was of his own actors. He gave them screen time, dignity, and trust. Even so, the film still reflects Ford's conflicted relationship with race, but his insistence on authenticity marked a breakthrough moment. The Navajo extras brought depth to the searchers that no stage performance could match. Fact 9.
A little Comanche squaw. Squaw!
Ford rarely spoke about his emotions, but the searchers carries traces of personal pain. During production, Ford was mourning the death of a close friend, and the film became his quiet outlet. Scenes of loss, obsession, and emotional isolation echoed his own feelings. Crew members noticed Ford became unusually reflective during filming. He sometimes stared into the desert for long stretches without speaking. When actors asked for clarification about a scene's meaning, Ford replied with cryptic phrases like, "Because life takes what it wants." Wayne sensed something was different and handled Ford with care. Some scholars believe Ethan's haunted loneliness mirrors Ford's internal struggle at the time. The long pauses, the sweeping landscapes, and the heavy silence all carry a weight that feels deeply personal. Ford's grief seeped into the film's tone, shaping its melancholy atmosphere. What was meant to be a straightforward Western became something mythic, tragic, and emotionally raw. Ford poured himself into the story, quietly but powerfully. Fact 10.
Ethan, I found the man has seen her. Knows where little Debbie is.
Although the script was meticulously written, Ford rarely stuck to it. He changed dialogue daily, sometimes minutes before filming. Actors often learned new lines moments before cameras rolled. Wayne complained that Ford's changes made Ethan even more unpredictable than planned. Ford didn't care. He thrived on improvisation. In one scene, Ford ordered Wayne to deliver a line with complete sarcasm, even though the script called for sincerity. The crew watched as Wayne improvised small gestures and pauses that Ford immediately approved of. Jeffrey Hunter struggled at first, but Ford encouraged him to trust his instincts. Many iconic lines, including Ethan's subtle insults, were created on the spot. Ford believed spontaneity gave the film its legendary energy.
No sense. Hunter, empty bellies, that's the sense that makes you blanket head.
Scenes that feel loose, natural, and emotionally messy were actually born from chaos behind the camera. The improvisation helped turn the searchers into something timeless and unpredictable, and Ford's constant script changes kept the cast on edge, exactly how he liked it. Fact 11. John Ford believed that Jeffrey Hunter needed to feel intimidated by John Wayne for their dynamic to work on screen. So Ford provoked Wayne into acting distant and dismissive toward him off camera.
Leave them carry off their hurt and dead.
Well, Reverend, that tears it.
Wayne, always loyal to Ford, played along but felt guilty about it. Hunter, meanwhile, sensed the coldness and tried harder to earn Wayne's respect. Ford fed Wayne small comments like, "He's not tough enough," or "Don't go easy on him," knowing Hunter would overhear. Crew members later admitted it was psychological warfare. In emotional scenes, Hunter's nervousness showed in his shaky voice and quick breathing.
And Martha? And Martha?
Ford loved it, calling it real fear, not Hollywood fear. Wayne occasionally tried to break the tension with jokes, but Ford shut him down. He wanted Hunter to stay unsure of his place in the film until shooting ended. Hunter eventually realized Ford had manipulated both men. The tension made their on-screen relationship richer, sharper, and more believable. But it came at the cost of genuine discomfort. Fact 12. "That'll Be the Day" became one of the most iconic lines in Western history, but the studio initially wanted it removed. Executives thought the line sounded too cynical and too repetitive. Ford fought back, saying the line's strange blend of stubbornness and resignation defined Ethan Edwards. Wayne loved the line and delivered it differently each time, adding anger, humor, or exhaustion, depending on the moment. The studio suggested replacing it with a more upbeat catchphrase, but Ford refused. During early screenings, audiences reacted strongly. Some laughed, others tensed up. Ford realized the line's ambiguity made it powerful. It told viewers everything about Ethan without explaining anything. Wayne later said it was one of his favorite lines of his entire career. The phrase became so iconic that Buddy Holly used it as the title of his hit song. What the studio thought was too dark ended up shaping the entire legacy of the film. Fact 13.
For each son, I take many scalps.
The character Scar, the Comanche chief, was portrayed by Henry Brandon, a white actor of German descent, but his on-screen presence was heavily influenced by Navajo culture. Ford cast Brandon because of his stage experience and intense eyes, but he insisted on dressing the character using Navajo resources. Actual Navajo tribal members helped create Scar's wardrobe, weapons, and hairstyling. Brandon spent weeks living with Navajo families to study posture, gestures, and cultural cues. Ford instructed Brandon to blend acting techniques from multiple tribes, creating a hybrid portrayal that frustrated some historians. Crew members admitted that Ford prioritized drama over accuracy. Despite the controversy, Brandon delivered a chilling performance filled with quiet confidence and controlled fury. Many Navajo extras found his presence convincing, even though the portrayal mixed cultural elements. Ford's unusual choices left the character feeling larger than life, mysterious, and dangerously unpredictable. Scar remains one of the film's most unforgettable and most debated characters.
You speak good Comanche. Someone teach you?
Fact 14.
No, you don't, Ethan. Ethan, no, you don't!
Ford distrusted rehearsed dialogue, so he secretly planted a hidden microphone during emotional scenes. Actors didn't know when their whispers, mutters, or frustrated sighs were being recorded. During long desert marches, Ford captured real exhaustion in the actor's breath. Wayne grumbled under his breath several times, and Ford used those natural sounds as atmospheric audio. Jeffrey Hunter once cursed after stumbling on a rock. And Ford left the recording running while resetting the shot. Vera Miles whispered prayers to stay calm, thinking no one could hear her. When Ford replayed the audio, the cast was shocked. He claimed honesty mattered more than comfort. The hidden mic added layers of realism that normal ADR sessions couldn't match. Many of the film's most subtle sound cues, breathing, grunts, faint reactions, came from these secret recordings. Ford's obsession with authenticity bordered on invasive, but his methods created a sonic texture that made the film feel raw, human, and alive. Fact 15.
I got sullen, suspicious.
Do you think it might have been?
I don't know.
The Searchers was released during a time of growing civil rights tension, and Ford incorporated themes that Hollywood studios were afraid to tackle. Ethan Edwards' racism wasn't softened or disguised. It was portrayed openly and harshly. Some executives worried audiences would reject Wayne's character for being so morally compromised. Ford refused to sanitize Ethan's hatred because he wanted to expose the reality of prejudice in America. Critics at the time were divided. Some praised the complexity, while others felt uncomfortable with the portrayal. Ford insisted the film needed to show how racism poisons identity and clouds judgment. The character's obsession with Debbie's purity reflected real societal fears. Wayne played Ethan with a mixture of fury and regret, creating one of the most complicated protagonists in cinema. The film's commentary was subtle but powerful. Over time, scholars recognized The Searchers as a groundbreaking examination of American identity. Ford used a Western epic to confront the country's deepest anxieties, and audiences are still debating it today. Fact 16.
That's what I'm counting on.
I know you are. Well, it ain't gonna be that way. She's alive and she's gonna stay alive.
John Ford believed John Wayne was holding back too much emotion in a key scene, so he decided to push him until his defenses cracked. Wayne had delivered the line cleanly, professionally, and exactly as written, but Ford wanted something darker. Instead of giving notes, Ford coldly said, "Again." Wayne repeated the scene, and Ford gave the same instruction. After 10 takes, Wayne's patience began to fray. He asked Ford what he wanted changed, but Ford only replied, "You'll know when you get it." Crew members watched silently as Ford repeated the command over and over. Wayne's voice slowly shifted, first annoyed, then strained, then quietly exhausted. Around take 15, Wayne snapped, throwing a look so raw and bitter that the entire set froze. Ford immediately shouted, "Print it!" without waiting for the shot to finish. That unguarded moment became the emotional anchor of the entire sequence. Wayne muttered afterward that Ford enjoyed cruelty too much. But everyone agreed the final take carried a truth Wayne couldn't have acted intentionally. Ford pushed him to the edge and captured something unforgettable. Fact 17.
Sort of like roundabout. Man says he's going one place, means to go t'other.
The Searchers originally contained a brutal scene that Ford ultimately removed from the final cut. The sequence showed the aftermath of a massacre in more graphic detail than anything Ford had filmed before. Wayne delivered a horrified reaction that was nearly silent, trembling with real emotion. Crew members said the scene felt so intense, it changed the tone of the entire movie. Ford worried that such vivid violence would overshadow the psychological drama he wanted. He screened the footage privately and sat in silence afterward. Even Wayne was shaken by how far the scene had gone. Ford quietly ordered the scene removed and never spoke about it publicly. Some believe it was destroyed outright. Others claim a fragment still exists in studio archives. What remains in the final film is a toned-down version that hints at the horror without showing everything. Ford trusted the power of implication and feared audiences weren't ready for the original.
Kill her for Ethan. She never done nobody any harm. We gotta catch up with them yellow legs. Maybe they got Debbie with them.
Maybe they got that.
Fact 18.
Stand aside, Martin.
No, you don't, Ethan.
Some of the sweeping Monument Valley scenes were captured under brutal weather conditions. Ford refused to delay shooting when sandstorms rolled across the desert. Instead, he ordered the cameras to keep rolling, shouting that the storms looked biblical. Actors shielded their eyes as dust tore across the set. Wayne could barely open his mouth without eating sand. Jeffrey Hunter wrapped cloth around his face between takes to avoid inhaling grit. The crew struggled to stabilize equipment as wind gusts nearly toppled the lights. Ford stood in the middle of the storm, pointing and yelling directions as if nothing was wrong. The resulting footage looked surreal, hazy, harsh, and otherworldly. Ford knew instantly he'd captured something extraordinary. The sandstorms added natural drama no effects team could replicate. Even though everyone suffered for those shots, they became some of the most breathtaking images in the film.
No sense. Thunder, empty bellies, that's the sense that makes you blanket head.
Fact 19.
Never mind. He's a man that can go crazy wild, and I intend to be there to stop him in case he does.
The confrontation between Ethan and Debbie is one of the most emotionally intense scenes in the film. Natalie Wood was nervous about shooting it because she knew Wayne's character was supposed to radiate hatred and danger. Ford instructed Wayne to approach the scene with absolute seriousness, no softness, no comfort, no breaks in character. Wood later said Wayne's eyes looked colder than she'd ever seen. During one take, Wood flinched before Wayne even moved, and Ford decided to keep that real fear. The emotional tension became overwhelming for her. Crew members comforted her between takes. Wayne apologized repeatedly off camera, assuring her he wasn't like Ethan. Wood's unease brought authenticity to her performance, exactly as Ford wanted. The scene remains one of the film's most disturbing because the fear on her face isn't acting. It's genuine shock. Ford pushed the boundary of what was acceptable, but the result is haunting.
Be not till I'm finished my clergy. Ours closed, Turk. Right, Sister Jorgensen?
Right.
All right, Rangers, let's go. Let's get it going.
Fact 20.
Was a very dear friend of mine. He says, "This is the greatest script I've ever written." He says, "Jack, I want you to promise me now."
The final doorway shot is iconic, but Ford embedded a subtle detail that carries deeper meaning. As Wayne turns and walks into the desert, his body casts a faint shadow that stretches toward the family he can never join. Ford carefully positioned the lighting to make the shadow extend, like a tether pulling him backward. The image symbolizes Ethan's eternal exile, a man trapped between worlds. Ford never explained the choice publicly, but cinematographer Winton Hoch confirmed it was deliberate. The framing also echoes classic frontier paintings that depict lone wanderers fading into the horizon. Wayne's hand briefly lifts toward his belt, a gesture that suggests a lingering readiness for violence. It's a silent reminder that Ethan can't escape who he is. The family remains in warm light while Ethan disappears into harsh daylight. Ford held the shot longer than usual to let the symbolism sink in. It became one of the most studied frames in film history. The moment captures Ethan's tragic fate with one quiet, devastating image.